Hello everyone, welcome to The Knowledge, the show that attempts to point you in the right direction ahead of major flat festivals in the racing calendar. This week it's the Ayr Gold Cup Festival firmly in our focus, and we head to what was known as the Western Meeting, but the name has changed ever so slightly. But still, the essence and ethos of the meeting means that it's going to be very popular. Those stands are going to be filled from Thursday the 16th of September all the way through to Saturday the 18th of September, with some quality racing along the way. As usual, competitive fields will be stretching their legs on the green turf of Ayr Racecourse. Let's bring you some of the facts that are, of course, specific to Ayr Racecourse, widely regarded as Scotland's premier racecourse. It hosts the only group race in the country, which is of course the Firth of Clyde Stakes. It's a left-handed galloping oval track, and the round course is approximately 1.5 miles in distance with a run-in of half a mile, and the straight course is used for sprint races that are up to 6 furlongs. Well, someone who knows a little bit more about the racecourse in intimate detail is the clerk of the course, Graham Anderson, and he's been speaking to Racing TV's Gordon Brown.
Well, Graham, this is where it all starts, the 3 big sprints from the 6th pole. How's the track looking for the time of year?
Really good condition, Gordon. Obviously we had a very wet winter, as we normally do in the west, but we've had an exceptional summer this year, to be fair. We've done a lot of maintenance to it. Got a lot more done than we usually would. You know, usually we're fighting between race days and weather, but no, we've been really good this year. We've got plenty done and it's in great order at the moment.
Looking at some work, is this drainage? It looks sand slits, what would you call that?
Yep, these are sand slits. We've done some drainage in the off season, and now we're just doing topping up with the sand slits just to connect the drains together. Something we try and do every year now, just to keep maintaining the track. And you know, as we all know, if the rain comes here, it can tend to sometimes not stop for a few months. So it's just try to do a bit of belts and braces to help the track out and hopefully improve the conditions.
It's been a dry-ish summer, but it's this time of year that the straight course in particular gets plenty hammer because it's usually maximum fields.
Yeah, exactly. And our sprints through the year have been really good. We've raced, I think, more times this year than some other years. We started really early at the end of April this year, which, to be fair, over the last few years, down to weather, we've been unsuccessful in. So we've probably raced more this year than we have done. But again, the summer we've had has certainly helped us out.
And maximum width, I see the rails, they'll be right across the track.
Yep, so that's us to go full width now. So through the season, obviously, we close in the rails as we go along, save ground. But now we're full width, we're back to about 30 metres wide here. Yeah.
This is a kind of level part of the track, and as we'll see later, it runs downhill and then there's a bit of a climb to the line.
It does. A lot of people, when you say flat track, everybody thinks, it's a nice flat track, but there's quite a few undulations in it. You kind of run down towards the 4, and maybe once you get to like the 2, you start to gradually climb back to the winning post.
Well, Graham, here we are in the dip, about halfway over the 6 furlongs. It's about this area that caused the abandonment of the 3 days a few years ago. It looks fine to me now.
Yep, touch wood, obviously no issues since then. This is where we started our whole new drainage programme, which we're continuing each year to try and, at the end of it, our goal will be to completely have a new drainage system in the whole track. So we've started in the home straight, and we've done more than a furlong each year just to try and complete that. But we're just in that area at the moment. But yeah, this is where you kind of come into your dip. And just down here at the 2 is where you kind of start to slowly, gradually have a climb up to the winning post.
I'm amazed by the width of the track, and just talking about the straight course, the 6 furlongs here, do you find the ground generally rides the same all the way across, all the way from start to finish? Yeah,
pretty much. I think in any track you'll always have an area that's maybe a wee bit quicker, or it's a wee bit easier in some places. You try and get the consistency, obviously, but yeah, I think for the size of the area we have and the distance you're covering, it's pretty much the same from rail to rail.
And just looking at the covering of grass as well, it slopes one way just slightly across to the inner, and we should remember as well, you talk about work on the straight course, not all the action over the 3 days is on the straight course. We've got a round course with some good races on it as well.
Absolutely, Gordon. Yep, you've got quite a few listed races and things covering over that side, the mile 2, and the mile. So yeah, it's not just about the sprint course, which is another reason that our drainage programme is obviously including the back straight as well. It's back to having to try and keep that consistent ground and preparing for wet weather as it comes in, and try and basically kind of have an overall track where you're producing the same ground.
And Graham, I always meant to ask you, do you get often input from trainers or indeed jockeys walking the track and you asking you about what the ground might be or their opinion?
Yeah, definitely. I think over this meeting more than others, you have a lot of jockeys about, every meeting jogging or walking, but especially at this meeting you'll have a lot more trainers, probably make the journey to come here. We're quite a wee bit away, so they probably come for this meeting and you'll see a lot of people out here on the track.
Have you not got a funny story about Franny Norton and his umbrella prior to winning the Ayr Gold Cup?
Yeah, 2011 I think it was, Franny Norton. We met him on track and he was testing various parts of the track using a golf umbrella and decided that he would pick his line in the centre, and yeah, he went on and won with Earl Jonathan, coming straight down the middle.
We have this age-old sort of conundrum as well, far side or stand side. So far side, stand side. Yep. Does the clerk of the courts have any idea leading into the big days? Do you ever prove right which side's best?
So we have a kind of ongoing thing where the winner might come from. I've never been right yet. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but nah, listen, there's always people who say there's a bias or there's an easier bit or a firmer bit in the ground, but I don't see it. Our going stick doesn't tell that either on race mornings. It's pretty even. You're usually within a point of each another, so it's marginal.
Well, great to hear from Graham Anderson at Ayr, and there's something that he said that I'll be picking up with my special guest this week for the Knowledge, James Millman. James, great to have you on the show, and the first thing I'm going to ask you about is what Graham Anderson said about the draw, and even given all their knowledge of the track, they don't know where the best place to be is. So as a punter, whether you're weeks or days away when the draw isn't known, how much of a lottery and how keen would you be to back a horse not knowing the details of the draw?
Yeah, that's always a danger of anti-post betting in any kind of sprint, especially the big handicaps. And Ayr itself, Stall 8 has probably been the crucial one. That's had 3 winners in the last 10 years. But generally, the real low ones struggle. Don Ryan Triumphant, the only winner from Stall 4. More higher, 17 to 24, has produced 6 winners, whereas Nahar, last year's winner, was drawn 13 in the middle. So it's a true mix, and the fact the clerk of the course isn't confident about where the winner's going to come from. Yeah. Obviously, we're at an early stage. It's difficult. The Silver Cup probably give us a real good picture on the day itself. And
weather-wise, there's a bit of rain forecast in the lead up to it. It's very difficult to be adamant exactly how much is going to fall. But that's something that I guess the first 2 days of the meeting will help you in terms of assessing for the weekend. Yeah,
most definitely. Probably a little bit quicker than normal for the Ayr Gold Cup meeting, especially at the beginning on Thursday. Around about 6 mils forecast on Friday. It's a fair way in advance for Tuesday morning now, but it's not going to be perhaps the soft ground Ayr Gold Cup we've had in recent years.
Other thing to ask you about, prestige. You talk about the big handicaps through the year, the Ayr Gold Cup festival as it is now. Where does it sit, do you think, in terms of the season of sprints, the Ayr Gold Cup itself?
Yes, it's a strong one. I think that all the prestigious handicaps, the Wokingham, the Stewards Cup, the Ayr Gold Cup, if you've got a top-class sprinter, you're already pinpointing your targets where you want to go. You enter in advance anyway for these races, so some are going to be well treated better than others. I think they've all got their place and everyone wants to win them, especially the northern trainers. Yeah. This is probably their main feature, I suppose, this season, but the Southern Raiders, they all come up for good prize money.
Well, let's see what we've got on the schedule ahead of the 3 days of the Ayr Gold Cup Festival, starting on Thursday. Busy day as always. The first race is at 1:50. The novices involved in a novice stakes over a mile, then a handicap over 7 furlongs, and then 2 divisions of a mile handicap at 3 o'clock and 3:35. A fillies handicap at 4:10 over 10 furlongs. That's also the distance of the Kilkerran Cup. 4:45. The penultimate race is a handicap over 5 furlongs, and then a handicap closing off the card on the opening day of the festival over a mile and 5 at 5:50. Friday, the quality goes up a notch, starting at 1 o'clock with another novice stakes over 7 furlongs, a handicap over 6 at 2:10. It's the first of the listed races, the Harry Rosebery Stakes over 5 furlongs. 2:45, the Arran Scottish Sprint EBF Filly Stakes, that listed race over 10 furlongs. 3:20, a handicap over 6. At 3:55, a handicap over 2 miles, 1.5 furlongs, and then the last race, which takes place at 4:30 on Friday, is another handicap over a mile. And the big race is, of course, on Saturday, and that is, of course, the Virgin Bet Ayr Gold Cup at 3:40. But there is quality either side of it, starting at 1:20 with a nursery over a mile. At 1:55, it's the Virgin Bet Doonside Cup. That listed race is over a mile and a quarter. 2:30, the Silver Cup over 6 furlongs, 3:05. The Firth of Clyde Stakes for fillies, that Group 3 race over 6. At 4:15, a handicap over a mile, 4:50, a handicap over 7 furlongs, and a mile and 5 handicap closing out proceedings at the 3-day meeting at 5:20. Right, let's bring you some details of the Ayr Gold Cup history, which is, of course, a race that has captured the imagination of quite a lot of people, especially punters, ever since it was established back in 1804. Originally held at Ayr's former racecourse, which was Belle Isle. Initially, it was restricted to horses bred and trained in Scotland. It was first run as a handicap in 1855 and first run at Ayr Racecourse in 1908 over its traditional distance of 6 furlongs. It's open to horses that are 3-year-olds and over, and currently has a maximum field size of 25 runners. And of course, we know about the 2 consolation races. The Silver Cup was established in 1992, and the Bronze Cup, later, of course, established in 2009. Well, it's time to look ahead to the big race of the 3-day Ayr Gold Cup Festival. And of course, it is the Ayr Gold Cup itself, and the betting has Great Ambassador as the 6-1 favourite. Popmaster 12s, Fresh 14s, along with Just Frank and Comanche Falls. Busala, the fascinating Busala, 14-1. Summergan, River Nymph, Royal Scimitar, Gulliver, and Bielsa 16-1, and you can get 20-1, all bigger the remainder. We are going to start with Great Ambassador, though, James, a horse who was obviously a tad unlucky in the Stewards Cup, but has since gone on to make amends for that.
Yeah, he was a clear winner on his side, wasn't he? Only 7 races on that side. He finished 4 lengths ahead of the others. Punchable Flyer in 9th was the first one home in behind him. He drifted over towards the standside group and didn't quite do enough to win. He made amends here at Newmarket next time out. Smaller field, less competitive handicap. Rathborne back in second. Jumby, he's a real solid horse for Justin Houghton, who's won subsequently at Salisbury, back in third, staying on strongly in behind him. This is a good form. He then went on to York, won a 4 unlisted race. I'm not sure how strong a listed race it was at York last time, but the handicappers only put him up £4. He was actually £1 worse in under his £5 penalty. So while he's on his up, he's that potential group horse in the handicap. Ed Walker's done fantastic with him. He's improved immensely since joining him this year. It's not perhaps as short a price favourite as he should be, I think. Yeah,
Tabdeed, of course, a horse that he beat, is a pretty solid yardstick in that race at York as well. I mean, he looks as if he's going to fall into what is the sort of archetypical winner of an Ayr Gold Cup, which is a horse that's really a pattern horse taking place in a handicap.
Yeah, most definitely. He's certainly improved with every start this campaign. Won at Kempton for his first start. And as you mentioned, Tabdeed's a very solid listed individual that he ran against last time at York. But a 4 unlisted race, transferred back into a big field handicap. It is a little bit different. And he's got a fair turnaround at the weights with Comanche Falls. Comanche Falls is £6 better off.
Yeah.
And he beat him in the Stewards Cup. So I'll say he's short enough, bearing in mind we talked about a draw. We don't know what side you want to be on, don't quite know what the ground's going to be yet, and it's always a very competitive sprint.
All right, we'll get to Comanche Falls in just a moment, but arguably one of the most fascinating horses running at the meeting is Busala, who represents William Haggas. He's only ever had 3 runs. 2 of those came in 2019, and the last time we saw him was actually on Boxing Day.
Yeah, now this was his second run. He'd earlier won at Windsor on debut, beat Ratia, who ended up finishing 6th in the Malcolm on his subsequent start. He's rated 94, so that shows you how good a horse he was on debut. This was his second start. Now, the form wasn't strong, but he was impressive. Back in second in the pink and black, just staying on, is the Richard Farhay trained Yoshimi. Now, he's only a 70 horse. The third horse in the orange sleeves, he's rated about 60. So, quality of form, not a great deal of strength and depth, but look how impressive he was. Now, lockdown meant a lot of horses had a bit of an interrupted preparation last year. He only reappeared on Boxing Day, as you say. He ran in a conditions race where he ran a solid race, a little bit slowly in the stride against established sprinters. On the warpath was your winner, second was above. He was 95 going into that contest. The handicap actually put up £5 for winning about £1,000. So probably a little bit frustrating for William Haggas. More frustrating, we've not seen him since then, another 9 months down the line.
As a racing person, as well as someone who's involved in talking about advising people on how to bet, when a horse hasn't raced as often as he has and is now faced with a huge field, a competitive race, you know, the blood and thunder of an Ayr Gold Cup, How put off are you by his lack of experience for a race like this?
Yeah, going to have to be pretty put off because Nahar, who won the race last year for these connections, he was a very progressive individual. He won his first 4 outings as a 3-year-old. He was on his run number 10 when he won the Ayr Gold Cup. He was slowly in the stride, he stayed on very strongly, and he was second star man this year, so he's a future group horse. You'd imagine that he's a future group horse as well, because William Haggas has kept hold of him. When a lot of horses of his type have had injuries, they head off to the Tatzel's horses and training sales, and they go to new yards. William Haggas doesn't want to give up on him. The fact he's running him in such a competitive handicap for his first run of the season, for only his 4th career start, he's obviously very good, but that experience might just find him out, to be honest, because it's going to be a tough test.
Well, let's talk about a horse that's already come up in conversation. That's Comanche Falls, because he's the horse that won the Stewards Cup. Great Ambassador, Chief of Chiefs, obviously involved in this race. Great Ambassador, as James pointed out, over on the far side, marooned slightly. Comanche Falls, the best horse in the race, question mark?
He was on the day. I love the fact that, know the family well, Michael Dodd's team, high probability to go to Cold. Now, he became good at 5 and 6. This horse has improved a year earlier, the 4-year-old career. That he's really come good. He won at Ayr back of 84 his first start of the season, won at Ripon, won the Scottish Stewards Cup at Hamilton, then here in the Stewards Cup he stays on strongly, a running style which suits this kind of big field handicap. He's won well, you can see Fresh just in the grey Clip Logistic colours finishing 8th. That's one of our stronger horses in the market. I think that horse might be better at Ascot. And then you've got in purple and pink Great Ambassador. Unlucky if he backed Great Ambassador last time, but he is £6 worse off on this occasion, and I just think Comanche Falls, he gets a job done. He might want a little bit of rain to fall, which Ayr normally gets. We're not quite guaranteed. I think Friday will tell us more weather-wise. That's when the rain's due to fall. But I think he's a little bit overlooked, bearing in mind that winning streak he's got. Michael Dodds knows the family well. To go to Gold, he always comes good in the autumn. You see him winning those listed races at York, Doncaster in October. So I think he's going to keep maintaining his form. And I just think he's the form horse of those that are guaranteed to run.
When we talk about these handicap races, horses have been doing their stuff for a long time this season. When they get to this point, September, you kind of think that they've shown their hand. We've talked about Busala, who perhaps hasn't. And a horse who quite hasn't shown his full hand is Just Frank. As a 2-year-old, he was very exciting. Had a sort of slowish season up until this point at Thirst last time, James.
Yeah, well, the issue was he was just far too keen at the start of the season. Now, at the back end of his 2-year-old career, he won a 150 grand Tatzel sales race at Newmark. And that race is always competitive, 30 runners. Your 2-year-olds are going, some for a day out, but trying to land a big prize. He blitzed the field. He won by 4.5 lengths, then second in a listed race at Doncaster to end his campaign. Just way too keen at the start of the season. The first time he's really settled at Thirsk here last time. These were some good handicaps. Chairman of the board in the blue and yellow. He finishes 5th. He was third at Doncaster the other day. That was an easy success. He's got a £5 penalty on the back of this. The handicap's put him at 7, so he is £2 well in. Whereas Great Ambassador's actually £1 worse in than if races run next weekend. But the big question mark is, will he get in? Unfortunately, he needs 3 to come out. And generally, this kind of contest, a lot of the horses that are entered will declare because it's a big race target. So he might be in the silver version. But if he gets in, some of these big sprints has not been a massive amount of pace on in the early stages, and if he is relaxed, goes in an efficient manner from the front, I think he's very, very good. And Les Ayre, if he's got him at his peak, like he was last year in the autumn when he won that sales race, I think he's very dangerous.
Well, let's have a look at betting again, because we also have the current position in the weights, and you just look through there. Obviously, Great Ambassador is second in the weights, and that's your favourite. Popmaster, who a lot of people fancy for the race. He needs a couple to come out for it, and he's been getting better, I think. He seems mentally to be sharper. Fresh, who you mentioned, there's Just Frank there at 28, his position in the weights. He's 14 to 1. If you were to nail your colours to the mask at this stage, when you think about the fact that, say, Just Frank's at 28, how would you go?
Yeah, if Just Frank gets in, 14 to 1, I think it's a cracking each way price, because he doesn't really worry too much about the pace in the race because he'll be going on from the front. Comanche Falls, he definitely gets a run. If Just Frank doesn't get in, he would be my fullback selection. But I think it's a good race. Great Ambassador, 6 to 1, is a little bit skinny at this stage of the week for me.
2 that I like that are just on the edge as well are Popmaster and Bielsa. I think Bielsa has promised to be a very good horse for such a long time and hasn't quite delivered. But of course, he actually was behind Comanche Falls at the start of the season. There wasn't that much between them that day.
Yeah, no, that form's worked out really well. 84 Comanche Falls started off. That's course form as well, which I think is always important in these big sprints if you handle the track. Yeah, Bielsa, he might be the one that sneaks in. Popmaster, the improving 3-year-old, he's another one. I think 2 to come out. It's just a fascinating race, but it's going to be competitive.
Well, of course, the Ayr Gold Cup is the main one, but of course we know that there are consolation races, the Silver Cup and the Bronze Cup. So we've asked James to perhaps pick out a few who may not get into the major event, and we'll start with Capotes Dream. James, a horse who's having a magnificent season.
Yeah, it's a real good advert for the Tom Ward stable. 5 from 8 this campaign's gone up £20 in the rankings, and he's your perfect handicap because generally he just gets up in time. You can see him here at York travelling like an absolute dream in behind. His main danger's in front of him in the orange and blue, Mr. Wagyu, who's gone on to win the Stewards Consolation. Subsequently, he's now rated £11 higher, Mr. Wagyu. Capotes Dream, who's won again at Windsor, subsequently landed the Fitzstairs Sprint Final, a 75 grand contest by nose. He's only gone up 7, so he's actually £4 better off, Mr. Wagyu. He just keeps on doing enough. He isn't going to get in the Ayr Gold Cup, but he's going to be in the Ayr Silver Cup, and I think he's very dangerous. The handicap will get him eventually, but he's a cracking advertisement for Tom Ward's skills.
The handicap will get him eventually, but not
when?
sure when, because he just does, as you say, just doing what he needs to keep winning. As James said, £20 improvement in the handicap since he came over from Ireland and joined the Tom Ward stable. Fantastic from Capotes Dream so far. Another horse that switched stables last year, Ratia, used to be with Marcus Tregoning, now with Julie Camacho. You would know about Ratia, of course. Last time out at Doncaster, bumped into the horse that we've just seen there, Ayr Kane.
Yeah, no, I know him quite well, and I was actually even working for Racing TV at Newmarket on this occasion, and I was a little bit disappointed with Ayr Kane, but watching the runner, Ratia, he would have been a very unlucky loser. He was keen at the back of the field, no gaps open, and he absolutely flies when he gets a little bit of space. Now, luckily for us at Doncaster last weekend, Ayr Kane, no one wanted to take Ayr Kane on. We had quite an easy lead. Ratia was quite keen in the early stages, didn't have any room and got going too late. It was a £5 turnaround. We landed a nice prize, so I was quite happy. But I thought Ratia was unlucky last week. He might even be a bronze contender. He's not guaranteed to get in the Silver Cup. But I think he's a very well handicapped individual. He's going to improve. He's well treated. The stronger pace likely in a 25 runner sprint will suit. And I think he's definitely one that's A, well handicapped, and B, in either a silver or a bronze. I think he's got a great chance.
OK, so positive about Ratia. Now, we spoke about Popmaster being second favourite, one of the top horses in the market for the Ayr Gold Cup itself. A horse who's got form with Popmaster is Black Rod, who is representing the Michael Dodds stable, and he's really got his act together in his last couple of runs.
He has. This was an extremely competitive 3-year-old sprint handicap. Actually, that quintet on the far side were the ones that dominated. Apollo 1, currently in front, finished second. Black Rod has been expertly placed by Michael Dodds. He landed the apprentice race at York during the E1 meeting. That was dropped back to 5. Trip was a little bit on the sharp side. He just got up in the closing stages. The negative is no penalty for winning an apprentice race, so he ain't going to get in the Gold Cup. But in the Silver Cup, he's going to be well treated because he runs off the same mark. He's £5 well in. You mentioned Popmaster. He stayed on well. He'd been frustrating for connections. I think they'd expect him to win a lot earlier than what he did. He's come good now. I just worry if he actually gets into the Gold Cup, he might be better off in the silver. Because it's going to be another step up in grade for him, where he's just come up short in those kind of contests before. But that was really strong form at Newmarket. And to be fair, if Black Rod and Popmaster met again, I'd still be in the Black Rod camp if they're both in the Silver Cup.
OK, so just in summary, your Ayr Gold Cup selection is Just Frank.
Yep, Just Frank, hoping he gets in the Ayr Gold Cup. If not, Comanche Falls, I'll stick with the Stewards Cup winner. Silver Cup, Ratia, I'm not sure what race he's actually going to get in. He's kind of in a mix, but I think he's very, very well handicapped. And if not him getting in the Silver Cup, Capotes Dream, Tom Ward's done a fantastic job with him. OK, well, it's very difficult to decipher all those races, but an excellent job by James so far with those selections. We'll be catching up with James very shortly. And coming up here very shortly on The Knowledge, we also have a trip down memory lane.
At Racing TV, 100% of our profits go back into racing. Thank you for supporting the sport that we all know and love.
It's time to come racing in Scotland. This September, Racing TV members have 14 fantastic fixtures to visit for free. Come along for a great day out over the jumps or on the flat at Musselburgh, Perth, Kelso, Hamilton Park and Ayr. Spend September in Scotland with over £200 worth of free race days. Make the most of your membership and visit racingtv.com/Scottish season ticket for all the details.
Well, the Ayr Gold Cup meeting has been a happy hunting ground for the Kevin Ryan team. They have won the big race itself, the Ayr Gold Cup, 4 times. Delighted to have Amy Ryan on this week's The Knowledge to talk about those 4 Ayr Gold Cup successes. Amy, first of all, how are you and where are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad. Describe your current position for us.
Yes, I'm with the former Ayr Gold Cup winner Brando. I've just ridden him out this morning. And yeah, he's definitely not camera shy anyway.
What is it about the Ayr Gold Cup meeting that makes it such a success for the Kevin Ryan team? You always have a plethora of runners, but a very good strike rate as well.
Yeah, it's a great meeting. There's a lot of good races up there. It's a lovely track. And there's just a lot of options. And obviously the Ayr Gold Cup is a massive, prestigious race that a lot of the northern trainers obviously target. We sort of plan backwards from the Ayr Gold Cup for quite a lot of the sprinters, but we're seeing quite a lot of southern horses now coming up to support the meeting. It's just a really good meeting. There's a good feel about it, loads of good races, and yeah, good prize money, and it's a really prestigious race to win.
Well, we're going to reflect on the 4 Gold Cup successes that your dad and the team have had. And we'll start off in 2007 with Advance, the horse that you ended up knowing very, very well. And you spoke just briefly about planning back from the Ayr Gold Cup meeting. So at what point of the season, perhaps maybe the season before, did you, your dad, the team think, yep, Advance is an Ayr Gold Cup horse and we need to get him in the right spot for the race?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very competitive handicap, and there's quite often you're looking for a potential group horse in a handicap, I think, personally. Obviously, this guy was an example of that. But it's these sprinters, the season is kind of mapped out because there's only certain races for them they can run in the sort of rating scheme that there is for those kind of handicaps. So it's sort of a goal that a lot of trainers would have for progressive younger horses or older horses that are obviously running at that top sprinting level consistently.
Jamie Spencer was the man on board Advance back in 2007. And interestingly enough, when you think about the fact that, you have to be a good horse to win the Ayr Gold Cup, he was winning off a mark of 109, Amy. Yeah,
it's getting more and more competitive every year, this race. And he was a very, very good horse. He was very special to myself. I had a lot of really good days on him, and he was just a real tough, reliable sprinter. And you need a horse that loves those big fields. He was one of those horses. He wore his heart on his sleeve, and he was just such a likeable horse. He was a fantastic horse throughout his career for us.
I'm going to pick up on those things that you say as we look through all 4 victories that the Kevin Ryan team have had. But the first thing that you mentioned there is that horses that enjoy racing in a big field. Is that only something that you find out once they're in that sort of situation?
Yeah, quite often the big sprint handicaps, they're always big fields anyway. Wherever they're run out on different courses, they're often full fields. The likes of Brando, a hold-up horse, it just suited him the way the race was run. He likes them to go quick. He's a hold-up horse and he comes late. So quite a lot of horses, if they suit that kind of running style and they don't mind the big fields, it's a race that they can really do well in.
And tell me a bit more about Advance, Amy. You've forged quite a significantly good partnership with Advance in the years to come after the Ayr Gold Cup. And I think you won twice on him, is that right?
Yeah, I won a big heritage handicap actually down at Ascot on him. And I also won him at Ripon. But he was a fantastic horse early in my career. To get the chances to go and ride in those big races, and he was safe as houses as well. He was an absolute legend. He would stand in the stalls and he would watch the flagman, and as soon as the flagman let the flag down, he was out of those stalls, and he was a legend. He did a lot for my career, and he gave me some really, really good days.
Yeah, he was a super sprinter advanced. But he was the first of the quartet of winners for you, your dad and the team. And we'll move the memories forward to 2011. And our Jonathan, again, another horse winning in a mark excess of 100. He won off 105, this time under Franny Norton. Talk me through the lead up to the 2011 Ayr Gold Cup and how you were all feeling about our Jonathan's chances.
Yeah, he was a great horse. We got him, and he was a really progressive horse. Again, very, very talented horse. And like you said, this Ayr Gold Cup, it's getting more and more competitive every year. And you're seeing horses with marks of over 100 winning it. He again was a horse that had a big future ahead of him, and that was just a stepping stone. And these big handicaps, they're great to give the younger horses experience, and it's a real good stepping stone for bigger things in the future.
It's interesting the way these races always unfold and how you work out beforehand, especially for punters, Amy, where you want to be. Confidence-wise, when you have, whether it's an Advanced or our Jonathan or one of the other horses, going into that race, were you confident that you were in the right spot in terms of the draw?
Yeah, it's a bit funny with the draw, because often the racing earlier in the week gives you an indication of where you want to be drawn. Bit of a sore subject. I probably should have won the Ayr Gold Cup, actually. I was third on blame one year, and there seemed to be a golden highway that year up the stand-side rail. So we picked stall, I think it was 28 we've got, and we thought, great draw. He was a hold-up horse. He often missed the break, and he got locked up and flew home. So, yeah, it's he was probably one that got away. But throughout the week, you often see the races develop in different parts of the track, and it gives you a bit of a gauge then as to where you want to be drawn in the big day.
Yeah, and obviously it fills you with confidence, you think, that if you're in the right spot, according to how things go. Just remind me about Blame, because I know you mentioned you should have won it, but that was still a cracking effort.
Oh, he ran a great race. He finished third, but he was always slow away, and obviously drawn on the rail, they all came around him, and there was nowhere I could have gone. He travelled, and you just have to sometimes sit and suffer. And once I got out, it was just too late, and he flew home. I actually rode Blaine and Bogart that day. They were actually related, and they were both third. So Bogart was third in the Silver Cup, and Blaine was third in the Gold Cup.
We've got rather poignant memories about the third winner, of course, Amy, because that is Captain Ramius, and he won under the late Pat Smullin. I'm trying to remember back to the relationship that your father had with Pat Smullin, and how much that day would have meant to the team. Yeah,
Pat was. He's always been close to my dad, and for him to come, when he often came over to England, he would ride a few of the horses, and it was fantastic for him to ride Captain Ramius this day. You can see there he did it well, didn't he, in the end, but he was such a lovely guy. We actually have a horse called Smullin now, named after Pat, so hopefully that horse will do him justice. And it was a fantastic day, and great for Pat to be on board that day. Great memories.
Great memories indeed, and he won off a mark of 100, and actually it was a very strong race. You look at the horses behind. I mean, Regal Parade was second, Marek third. In terms of the quality performance, as you've pointed out, it's right at the top end of handicaps for the season.
Yeah, it is. You need a really talented horse to run the race, and I think each year it's got more and more competitive, and it's just a fantastic race. It's a great race to watch and a great race to be involved in as well. And hopefully, if we have a runner in it this year, hopefully if the rain comes, hopefully he'll run well.
Let's reflect on your pal Brando's success though in 2016, and I say 2016 almost with surprise, because it is 5 years ago, and yet Brando is still performing to such a high level. So talk me through that performance that long ago.
Yeah, it was great. We were very confident going into it. He had his conditions, he had the right draw, and the race just fell how we would want it to. He's a hold-up horse. He likes to come late. He likes to come through horses, and everything just worked out. It was just one of those days where everything fell right. And like you say, he's 9 now, but he's still running in Group 1s. He's beat less than 2 lengths last time in France. He's absolutely loving life still, absolutely loving going racing, and yeah, hopefully we'll bag another one before the end of the season. This was a special day. Pete and Ange love the Western meet, and they run quite a lot of the horses up there, and this was a big day for them.
A lovely prep run in the Nunthorpe as well.
Yeah, fantastic. He's just been a fantastic horse for us. He goes out, wears his heart on his sleeve, tries his heart out, and like I said, he loves racing, and you wouldn't know he's 9 years old. He comes at the gallop with his tail up in the air and flicking his toe out still, and he carries me up there and looks after me. So while he's doing that, I'll stick to
And of course, after winning the Ayr Gold Cup, Amy, he went on to get his Group 1 success in the Prix Maurice de Geest and has won well over £1 million. You know, I guess getting a Group 1 for a horse that has been involved at Group 1 level for such a long time was a very satisfying moment.
Yeah, I saw the other day he's gone over the £1 million mark now, which is it's fantastic. And he's a once-in-a-lifetime horse. You know, they don't come around very often, these kind of horses. So, yeah, he'll take a lot of replacing, but while he's still going strong and enjoying his racing, hopefully he'll pick up some more wins on the way.
Well, Amy, thank you very much. We wish you the very best of luck with all the runners at the Ayr Gold Cup meeting. And I know there's some potentially very, very good ones on show as well, including amongst the Tyrrells, and we might be talking about those a little bit later in the programme. Amy Ryan, thank you very much. And what we're going to do now on The Knowledge is go back to 2016 in the company of David Fitzgerald. We look back on the success of the mighty Brando.
And there are, for Scription, a little bit slow. Paul Vinny likewise. It's the 2016 William Hill Ayr Gold Cup with Who Fit and Name It What You Like prominent. Sir Robert Cheval over on the extreme right. They're coming middle to far side. Also up there, Orion's Bow, the white jacket Kimberella, absolutely so. The yellow is towards the middle. On the left of that one is Rivellino. G-Force chasing the leaders. Watchable, the green jacket prominent, following Name It What You Like with Who Fit. Growl is in about 7th place, the grey jacket, along with Jack Dexter in a similar position. The black and pink Rivellino midfield with Tarantum Star, Hillbilly Boy, Barrowees and Glenn Moss as they come past halfway. Johnny Barnes well back with Flaming Spear, Brando, Ascription and Perfect Pasture also at the back with Paul Vinny and Lulu the Zulu. It's Name It What You Like then that leads inside the 2 with Sir Robert Cheval. Watchable in behind along with Hoofit. Brando trying to stay on. Growl, the grey jacket, just in behind them. Kimberella, Orion's Bow, Iola's picking up from the back. Name It What You Like, Sir Robert Cheval with Brando over on the far side making a real good fist of it. And Who Fit this near side? Brando gets to the front in the hands of Tom Eaves, chased all the way by Growl and Who Fit, but it's going to be Brando's Ayr Gold Cup. And Tom Eaves salutes the crowd, wins for Kevin Ryan and Angie Bailey. In second, Growl, and then in third position was Who Fit, and in behind Name It What You Like, absolutely so, along with Kimberella and Johnny Barnes.
Great to see the old boy Brando. Remember, that was 2016. He's still going at the age of 9. And here on The Knowledge, we're going somewhere in complete contrast to where Brando is now. We're going to the juveniles as James Millman is back for a chat. And we're going to look ahead to the Firth of Clyde Stakes and the Rosebery Stakes, which features potentially some very fast horses on show. The Firth of Clyde is where we're going to begin. It's a Group 3 race, the only group race in Scotland. It's over 6 furlongs, and it's a race that at the moment features a whole host of horses that you could make a very strong case for. Head Mistress is at the top of the market at 4-1. Geocentric 5, Scots Grace 6s, Hello My Darling, Meisler May is 7s along with Canonise. Halahala Afmani is 10s. Shoe also 10s. Vertiginous is also 10s and is 12s bar those. Let's talk about Head Mistress first of all, James. We'll also see Loveday, who's entered as well in the Rosebery. This is very good from Head Mistress, who looks to progress from her first to her second wins. Yeah, she's 2 from 2 now. She made her debut 3 weeks before this at Down Royal, where she blitzed the opposition. Now, she's a profitable filly. She's only born on the 10th of May, so she's quite a late filly for an early 2-year-old. And that's probably why we haven't seen her in the first few stages of the season. But she really picked up strongly on this occasion. You see Loveday in front. This is her 6th start. She's absolutely blitzed the field. She only got off a mark on run number 5. She didn't quite get home well enough to beat the Ger Lions runner, who looks like stepping up 6 furlongs. Is really going to see her in a better light. She's out of a street cry mare. She's a house sister to winners over a mile, so the pedigree screams at extra furlongs really going to play in her favour. And this is what you saw in the VT. She stayed on extremely strongly. 6 furlongs is going to be right up her street. I was going to ask you about that because pedigrees often tell us a little bit, but run style is even more important, I think, because when they're on the racecourse, that's the thing that manifests itself. And judging by what we've seen of those 2 horses that finished first and second, you expect Head Mistress to be better at 6 and Loveday to stay at 5. Yeah, exactly. Loveday, Bungman and Jungle filly. She is 5 furlongs, winter power.
The size highlighter, and she's improved every single start. That was a career best from Loveday. She's going for the Rosebery, and I'd imagine Gerline's probably split his pair. Geocentric might head off to the Rosebery as well. But yeah, real nice start to her career. And Gerline's 4 winners on Saturday overnight, and he's absolutely flying.
Another trainer who's had a fantastic season is George Bow, especially as we know with his 2-year-olds. And Helen My Darling has run consistently well all season. She won on her debut, actually beat Zane Claudette, which has actually turned out to be excellent form. And she's run a series of good races since then, James.
Well, she has. This is going to be run number 8 at Ayr. Here she was in the big valuable nursery, £70,000 at the E1 meeting. She's running off 98. So you don't see too many 2-year-olds in nurseries off that mark. She's run absolute cracker. Flaming Red in the Michael Owen colours is the horse that wins this contest. Really solid effort. She follows this up by going to Ripon in the Champion 2-year-old trophy there, and Floater's finally returned to form. So she was beat a fair way. I'll say this is run number 8. Busy spell for a 2-year-old. Is it going to start catching up with her? And so she's against some unexposed horses like Head Mistress, who's only on run number 3 and has had a much quieter campaign. So on the whole, probably best watch, but I think would not be sorry she got more black type for Nick Bradley, George Bowie team.
All right, what about Clive Cox's filly, Crazyland? Now, she's another horse who won on debut. That was back in April. A little bit of a blip in between, but I thought this was much better at Salisbury.
It was. Now, I put her down as a potential non-stayer at 6 furlongs on the back of her Princess Margaret run at Ascot, where she led till the final 100 yards and tired quite dramatically. Here, the winner, actually, Holly Doyle, is right behind a Romantic Time. Ridden a little bit more patiently this time, Crazyland. She certainly sees out the 6 furlongs, no problem. It was a good effort in the circumstances. She probably wouldn't want too much range. She's got plenty of form on a quick surface. But again, Clive Cox's 2-year-olds, they're really running well. Katura won the Flying Childers at Doncaster. And like I say, she surprised me by how well she saw out the 6 furlongs at Soldier for the Dick Paul, because I did have her down as a 5 furlong specialist.
How strong a race do you think that was? They finished all fairly close to each other at the end. Yeah,
I think perhaps not as strong a Dick Paul as normal. Lots of horses are correlating form together. Nothing really stood out. And I think the winner on that far side rail had a bit of an advantage under Holly Doyle, Romantic Time. So I think she'll need to step up again. But a little bit like Hello My Darling, they're solid contenders. I just think Head Mistress might be one that might go on, and there could be another one.
Another horse who's going to have to step up, but boy, she's got some potential, is Halahala Afmani. We know about the pedigree. She's a half-sister to Hella Youmzain, who did so well for the stable. 2 Group 1 wins for the Kevin Ryan team. What did you make of this debut?
Well, the market screamed a winning debut. They absolutely thought she couldn't get beat. Coming out the stall, she was a little bit slow in the stride and a little bit clueless in the early stages, but once a penny dropped, she really picked up. Perhaps not the strongest of contests, back in second in the Armstrong colours, Round Acre. He'd previously been second at Leicester, given an official rating of 71. So still impressive as how much distance this horse has put to the runner-up. Darbison is the sire.
Yeah.
Kodiak is the sire of Hella Youmzain. Hella Youmzain, very sweet individual, won the Diamond Jubilee. Perhaps might stay a little bit further, just looking at that debut. We don't know enough. Might be much sharper from the gates on this occasion, but definitely one to consider, because like I say, so strong in the market. The pedigree, loads of black type performers in the pedigree, could be good, but we do need to see a little bit more in the second start.
She's very interesting, Halahala Afmani. Let's take a look at the market once again. Head Mistress remains at the top of the market at 4s, Geocentric at 5s. And when you look down, all the way down to Crazyland, there's interest in all of it. I thought at the prices that we see on screen, Halahala Afmani, not knowing the full limit of her potential was interesting. What did you make of this market, James?
Well, we've got a few double entries because Scott's Grace, who we're going to discuss in a moment. I'm not sure where that one will head. We've got the 5 furlong fillies race on the Friday. See the final runners. Head Mistress, for me, if she turns up, she sets a very high standard. But yeah, it's going to be a fascinating affair for Clyde, and Halahala Afmani could be absolutely anything.
Yeah, still love those phrases. Could be anything, and genuinely applies to Halahala Afmani. Well, I believe there are 31 entries for the Rosebery, so it's not going to be any easier in being certain who's going to line up. But you'll see in there some most interesting horses, the likes of Project Dante. You think back to winning at the Dante meeting, after which the horse was named. There's Canonised, Fast Response over on the right, the Vintage Clarets, Ballerina Lady, Eternal Halo, Geocentric from Ireland, potentially lining up, Gilded, Kindness, Lady Laid, Scott's Grace, you've already heard James mentioned Helen My Darling, Love Day, etc. Thunder Love Vertiginous, and we already spoke about Love Day earlier on. She is a very fast filly, so it'll be interesting to see if she lines up for this race. I'm sure she'll be a horse that we'll be paying attention to. Project Dante, I just touched on that horse just very briefly there. Trained by Brian Smart James, very good first time up, and then I thought a really good run on his second start. If he goes back to what he showed in his first 2 starts, then he's got a big chance. But you have got to put a line through what he did at Newmarket.
Yeah, only 10th behind the sale in the July Stakes. Now, Project Dante, £115,000 yearling, he got a job done winning that Dante meeting. It's just how much progress is he going to make through the season? And I felt perhaps he was a little bit flattered in the Norfolk. He was switched to the standside rail. He absolutely flew home.
Yeah.
I think he was at an advantage on that occasion. And the fact that he didn't follow it up at Newmarket is a bit of a worry. And we've not seen him since Newmarket as well, back in July. Horses like the sale have run twice since then. So perhaps there was a little bit of miss with him at Newmarket, or he'd given him a little bit of break. This was a good effort. Like I said, I've just got some question marks against him. He got loads of very speedy individuals in this contest.
Indeed, one of those could be called Geocentric, who's had 2 runs over 6 furlongs, second on those runs. Did win at Navan, though, over 5.
Yeah, that was on the second start. She was 11-2 on that occasion. This was a cracking bit of form because she took on the stablemate, Sacred Bridge, who's in the Carl Abdullah colours.
It looks exciting.
4 from 4,
yeah. Won
the sales race, beat Bosch the time before that, and she absolutely bolted up. But 22-1 on this occasion was Geocentric, and she gave her stablemate a bit of a race. She challenged her entering the final furlong. Predictably, as the yard expected, she wasn't good enough to beat her stablemate, but she beat the rest convincingly enough. She looks like dropping back to 5 furlongs would suit on this occasion. Now, she's obviously the stablemate of Head Mistress as well.
Yeah.
I would imagine Joe Lyons will split the pair of them. Geocentric will go here for the 5, and Head Mistress obviously in the 6. But that was a good effort. She keeps progressing. Tough. £160,000 I think she cost.
Yeah.
She's definitely one to consider bringing the Irish form with the English 2-year-olds.
The contenders for this race keep coming thick and fast, and next up is Scots Grace for Kevin Philippart de Foy. Won nicely first time up. How unlucky was Scots Grace here in the Sirenia?
Absolute nightmare throughout this contest. Even round the bend, when the stall was open, there wasn't much room. Danny Muscat decided to turn left, and it just didn't work out. You can see Eve Lodge on the inside and in the black and grey. She's a charm run down the inside to give Charlie Fellows his first group winner in the UK. But here, there isn't really a great deal of room, and unfortunately in the red and white, Princess Shabnan just stops right in front of her, and there's no room with Clive's horse on the outside. Wings of War gets chopped up, nowhere to go. Ease down, but actually with minimal assistance, she picks up really nicely to finish 5th. This was a frustrating day really for Kevin Philippart de Foy. He's made such a great start to his training career. 18% strike rate. The 2-year-old, he's 9 from 45. He's got another good 2-year-old in his stable. That is Pearl Glory, who we saw at Salisbury behind Crazyland. She was a little bit unlucky because she wants 7 furlongs and she didn't quite get there in time. I think he's destined to have a stakes winner at some point. 5 or 6, I'm not too sure about the trip because she's ended in both races. She's by Memas, who has loads of 5 furlong 2-year-olds. The Dams by Baltic King, who again, he won loads of races over 5 and 6. So I think she probably had the speed to drop back to 5 if they chose, or if they 6 furlongs and go for the Fair for Clyde. So I'm not sure which race they'll choose, but I think she's a talented filly. We certainly didn't see the best of her at Kempton, and whichever race Kevin Philippart de Foy and Connections choose, I'll be with her, I think.
Speaking about pedigrees, and that brings us to one other horse that we're going to mention, and that's Peggy Sue. She comes from the family of La Cucaracha, who was obviously a tremendous sprinter in the Guy Reed colours back in the day. And Peggy Sue created a very favourable impression first time up at Hamilton.
So similar to Halahala Afmani, isn't it? Lovely pedigree, speed all round. This one, as you mentioned, La Cucaracha, the Dam's full sister, who she was unbeaten at 2 in 2 starts, and she went on to win a number 4 at 4. Back in second, you had Edward Cornelius. Now, he came into the race off a mark of 85. It was his 3rd run of his career. Yes, he was giving at £12, but he's a decent type between Frody Padalla's place.
All right. Of the horses that we've seen, do you think we've seen the winner, or is there something else outside of that?
I think they're the main ones to consider. Like I say, Scots Grace, wherever she heads, I think she's got a fantastic chance in either the 5 or the 6. Like you, I'm looking forward to what the once raced, unbeaten 2 can do, Halahala Afmani and Peggy Sue we've just seen, because both of them look like they could be absolutely anything, and that's always nice to see when you don't know their potential, whether they can go anywhere.
It's the sort of race that I'll probably not have a bet in. I might, depending on where those 2 horses start in the market, if they're too short, I'd leave it. But if they were juicy enough prices, because you just don't know how good they are.
Exactly. Market, I think, will be pretty crucial. How much they progress from run 1 to 2. Like I say, Halahala Afmani in particular wasn't going to get beat on debut. Peggy Sue was a bigger prize. She wasn't expected to actually beat Edward Cornelius. I think she actually perhaps took Connections more by surprise. Has she improved from round 1 to 2, or has Halahala Afmani improved more? Let's say fascinating, and they're in separate races. So I'm looking forward to those. I think perhaps not so much the betting point, but looking forward for the future as to what they can do.
Yeah, that's the exciting part about watching those two fillies in particular. But those two races look very competitive, the Firth of Clyde and the Rosebery. Well, it's time now to catch up with someone for whom the Ayr Gold Cup Festival holds a very special place. And that's trainer Jim Goldie chatting once again to Gordon Brown.
Let's start by talking about, dare I call him, the stable star, Yukon Glen. You mentioned bred by Mr. William Johnson, group winner this season. He's had a great season. What's your reflection on how he went in the Ebor?
Ebor was a difficult race. For drawn 1, top weight, 10-2, but effectively he was carrying about 10-8 with it, so it was always going to be tough. We decided to go forward and take a chance, and we had an easy lead, and we'd went about 6 furlongs and 2 horses decided to take us on. So once that happened, we're always going to get beat.
So put a line through the Ebor, but before that, the 2 wins, including the group win at Sandown, they must be proper highlights for you.
Oh no, he's a fantastic horse. I think the day at Sandown when he did a quicker time in the Eclipse, which ran the day after and carried more weight, it was significant. We're not even sure he's tripped yet, and he's an 8-year-old, because he's obviously won for 2 miles and he's very good at a mile too, so we haven't quite tried a mile yet, but we might try it someday just to, because I asked Paul Moraine after he won at Sandown what he thought his trip was, and I don't know.
He gets on so well with Paul, and I'm hearing the 2 of them will be in action. You're targeting the Doonside Cup at Ayr next.
It's a special race to us. It's obviously a big race at Ayr for us. Prize winning, I could probably find better races down south, but William will be there, the family will be there, and
they half own the race course.
So it would be good to, last year it was a very hot race, so hopefully we can run well in it anyway.
Rory, yet another Jim Goldie grandson name horse at the opposite end of his career, but my goodness, what a prospect. Already a winner, of course, but what a prospect.
He's won a couple now, and he's a big raw horse. He's still maturing. He was gelded quite early because he wasn't the best behaved, so we gelded him early just to improve him a bit temperament wise, so he's gradually coming together, but we're not sure. I think he's a horse for next year.
And just talking about others that might well be bound for what is known as the Virgin Bet Ayr Gold Cup Festival now. Tanasok, when trained by Paul Midgley, a dash winner at Epsom.
I think he's been 5th in the Gold Cup, which is not too bad, but he's a long way for the Gold Cup. There are 5 furlong there in the Thursday. We'll probably head for that. Similar, he doesn't like soft ground, although his 5th in the Gold Cup was in desperate ground, so he has got form in it, but I think he had a pelvic fracture with Midgley, and that's probably why he's not as good as he used to be, and Frank Brady and had horses with me for years and decided to, nothing against Paul Midgley, who's obviously had a great tune at him, but just to try and give him a fresh air in Scotland.
Yeah, change the scene.
Yep, and Frank Brady was born about 7 miles that way, so he's a Paisley man. He's a Paisley man.
Exactly, yeah. Just over the hill. Be Proud, would we see him at Ayr?
He'll be in the cusp of getting in the Silver Cup. He'll definitely get in the Bronze Cup, so if he gets in, I'd love him to get in the Silver Cup. But no, I would think he'll go to Ayr. He ran well in the Consolation at Goodwood as well in soft ground, so I think the ground is better on Good to Fun, but he can handle soft ground.
And Sounds of Iona, she's been a busy season.
She's probably about ready to win. She won at Doncaster last year, beat Primus Comet. I'll probably go that route we are, but similar to the 5 furlongs, there only won 5 furlongs and then the three 6 furlong races. So I think she ran in the Bronze Cup last year, but she doesn't really stick. You know, she's a full Rory's full sister and brother, so she's very much a 5 furlong horse.
Another favourite of mine, I just seem to become attached to, and I've seen him a lot this season, possibly Bronze Cup bound as well, Global Humour.
Oh, Global Humour, he's a great wee horse. Any trip anywhere really, provided it's here. No, he's had a great season, and we're not really worried about the you know, he's very versatile trip-wise, ground-wise, so I would think, he's a horse that could win a Bronze Cup if he slipped in. It would be the lower end of it, but if he slipped in, he's capable of winning any race. You know, he's got loads of ability.
The gallops this morning as well, we saw Call Me Ginger coming up the hill behind Nicholas T. Is Call Me Ginger going to here? Anything for Call Me Ginger?
Well, he's probably the one we've earmarked for the Bronze Cup. Whatever the ground, you know, he'll like a cut in the ground, and if it's good to farm, he'll still like it. So, won really well last time. I think we're going to slip in just at the right weight, so that would be our main chance in the Bronze Cup, personally, I would think.
Lovely to hear Jim Goldie talking about all his horses set to line up at the Ayr Gold Cup Festival, but it's clear that the horse that holds that most special place in his heart is Yukon Glen, and he's set to line up in the Doonside Cup. And Yukon Glen is one of 17 entries for the listed race over 10 furlongs. That also includes last year's winner, Addeybb, Furat, Juan de Montalban, along with Pallavicino, amongst interesting contenders. There's Finest Sound, John Leaper, fancy for the Derby back in June, Juan Alcano, Royal Ascot winner, also included amongst the 17. I think the first place to start is with Yukon Glen. James, he's been a remarkable 8-year-old who's had a wonderful season in 2 wins at Sandown, the Brigadier Gerard, and also here where obviously John Leaper's also involved in the Gala Stakes.
He's remarkable. 12-time winner for the yard. Leg injury after he won the John Smiths. Normally you might get him back, but they're going to be handicappers at best. Jim's managed to turn him into a proper bona fide group horse this campaign. He won the Brigadier Gerard here under the big penalty. The pace set up lovely for him. They got racing way too early on, and he just picked up the pieces. Since then, he's been consistent. You mentioned what Jim was saying about the Ebor from Stool 1. Still wasn't disgraced off his big weight, finishing 11th. He's a fantastic horse. Is he good enough to beat Addeybb? Didn't last year. I'm not sure he is this year. We've got to mention the third horse there, John Leaper. What has happened, really? Bifrancal, out of Snow Fairy, bred to be very, very good. He just looks like to be one of those Frankles that is a little bit on the keen side, and we saw when William Buick won him at Newmarket, he was extremely strong from the 4 to the 2, and he still did enough to win. But unfortunately, in Epsom, it all went wrong. You could see him going down the start. He was far too keen. Frankie had him right at the back, 5 wide around top in the corner. It just didn't work out, but he hasn't at all gone back in the right direction. So it's interesting to see what he can do.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because it's always a worry that a horse that's well fancied for a big race, a classic earlier in the season, they blow out in the race, then things don't come back quickly enough. How difficult is it to get them back when you're on that sort of downward slope? Yeah,
it's a tough one. Ultimately with him, it was a rushed get to the Derby because he won his maiden at Newcastle in the spring. Hollydore rode him. He then won at Newmarket, and the problem was at Newmarket, he looked keen on that occasion. I think if it wasn't a Derby, you'd just slow down and got him back, but there was only one Derby, and I can see why they ran him, but it kind of blew his brains a little bit. So he needs to get back on track. There's clearly a big engine there. Interesting to see if they can. I think he might be more next year's project.
All right, big challenge for the Ed Dunlop team. James mentioned that, of course, Yukon Glen was 4th in the race last year. The horse that won it was Addeybb, who is continuing amongst the highest calibre of mile and a quarter horses around the world. 4-time Group 1 winner. Obviously, in the end, he's put in his place here by St Mark's Basilica, but we are talking about one of the best horses in the world, either side of him.
And what a great eclipse it was as well. Mistress back in 3rd. He ran a stormer on this occasion when he probably needed a run, and we've seen what he could do in the King George and the Juddmonts. Now, Addeybb used this race as a trial last year. He has a £7 penalty for that win in Australia, which he did again this time around in Queen Elizabeth at Ranwick. Last year, though, he faced Lord Glitters, San Donato and Yukon Glen. None of that trio were penalised, so he's given them all £7.
Yeah.
He still gave them a beating. On this occasion, they've all got penalties. Yukon Glen's got 5. John Leap's got a £3 penalty. Juan Alcano's got a £3 penalty. So in theory, yes, he's got a £7 penalty, but I think he's actually got an easier task this time around. In the Eclipse, he looked as good as ever. This will be tying him up nicely for another bid in the Champion Stakes.
It does look a very, very winnable opportunity once again for Addeybb. But another interesting contender is Juan Alcano. He's always promised to be a very good horse. I mean, he's 5th in the Guineas last year. And after wind surgery, he finally got back to winning ways at Royal Ascot and followed it up, which I think is quite important, with this run here at York.
Yeah, the Wolverton was an extremely strong listed race, and he won well on that occasion. I was a little bit disappointed he didn't win here, because we had Armory and MoFF just giving the pacemaker far too much ground. Bangkok and Juan Alcano were always in the right place, tracking the pacemaker, and I felt that was a race he probably should have won. Bangkok has done well to out-battle him, but I felt this was a race that perhaps he's lost a little bit, bearing in mind how the two main market principles were ridden. He's a very good, solid horse. He's got £4 from Addeybb. I don't think he's good enough to get close to him. As long as there's enough rain, that's the only slight concern. I suppose they will want a bit of give in the ground, which is why they were probably targeting Ayr. Normally the case. They will want that rain to fall on Friday for the favourite.
All right. So your confidence levels for Addeybb, should he line up in this race? Out of 10?
Out of 10, 9, 9.5.
Wow, what more do you want? I think it's 10.
Just make sure the rain does come, but realistically, it's a great race for him.
All right, James, thank you very much for the moment. We're going to switch our attention to the sprinters now at Ayr. Well, this, as we've said all along with all the races that we've previewed, is very difficult to try and decipher. So thankfully, James Millman is still alongside me. We look at the entries for this Scottish Sprint EBF Filly Stakes, a listed race over 5.5 furlongs. Keep Busy might be the sort of standard setter based on some of her very best form, but there are a whole host of horses in there. When you look down at there's Tweet Tweet, White Lavender over on the other side. Do you remember how good Dan Dalla was as a 2-year-old? Well, she hasn't really shown much of that form this year. Let's have a little chat through, canter through some of the leading contenders, James, and we'll start with Keep Busy from the John Quinn stable. She's been a really, really solid pattern performer. She finished 5th in the King's Stand. That surely is good enough to win this race.
Yes, it is, but that's a clear standout effort the whole season. Now, her 3-year-old campaign was brilliant, really. She progressed from being a good 2-year-old, but didn't look anything special, to a 3-year-old campaign, which was 2nd in the Group 1 Flying 5, only beaten half length by Glass Slippers, and then finished 5th in the Addeybb. So real good, solid Group 1 form. This time around, a perfect race they found here at Ayr, over course and distance, where she got the job done. The problem was the form wasn't that strong. Back in 3rd midwinter in the red cap in beige, she was only raced 81 going into this contest, and in 5th, Ivor Bat was only raced 83. There was 80s, 75s, not too far away. So their form wasn't particularly strong, and the issue is she's not really gone on. A subsequent start, 7th in the Coral Charge, 5th but beaten a fairway in the King George at Goodwood, and only 9th at Deauville last time out. So she's not in the same form this year as what she was last year, and she's got a £3 penalty for that success. So
we know that she's not been in the same form, but we also know that she is capable, if she is in form, of certainly winning this on her very best. Racecourse performances. One horse who is extremely interesting based on what she's done in her 4 starts this year is Tweet Tweet. When she won first time out and she beat Bedford Flyer at Thirsk, I thought she was going to be very, very smart. But then she got blitzed the next time. Since then, though, James, she's gone on to win twice and looks good. Yeah,
Bedford Flyer is seriously quick, so that took my notice when she beat him at Thirsk on her debut. This one, last time, like you say, about Haydock winning a 6-runner contest, and here was a very valuable 70 grand Fillies contest at York. She showed blistering speed. Interesting, back in that red cap is Midwinter, who finished placed in this contest. And through that form line, there really isn't a great deal between her and Keep Busy, but I think she's an extremely aggressive type. 3 from 4 this year. I felt she won quite comfortably on this occasion. The form's strong, really, isn't it? It was a valuable handicap. Loads of these were targeted in this race. I know we finished 6th with 4 a day. Yeah. And I just think she's the one that might take this step up into listed company, bearing in mind that the main rivals haven't really either progressed this season or run up to form.
Yeah, that's the point I wanted to make with her. You know, when she won at Thirst, you're looking at a mark of 78. Last time at York, you're looking into the 90s. She's on the verge of being on 100, listed level almost. but you get the impression that that's the direction she's going, whereas one or two others, including, I have to say, the likes of Keep Busy, you're worried about perhaps whether they've plateaued, whether they're going the other way.
Yeah, it's an upward trajectory, isn't it, for this horse, Tweet, and I think she can keep on going and progressing. So she's definitely the one for me, but we've got a few others, similar profile in White Lavender. Yeah,
let's talk about White Lavender for Jo Murphy. She's having a very decent season. She won at Navan in May, and last time was a very good second to Master Matt.
Yeah, 33-1 debut winner, so caught connections by surprise. 3 solid efforts off a mark of 80 in handicaps. Look at her there, red cap, she is tiny. There isn't a great deal of scope for her. Real strong pace on this occasion. Mr. Matt, your winner. She stays on extremely strongly in the closing stages. Perhaps a little bit flattered, I think, to go on for second place. Handicap has gone from 80 to 98. 98 is rating a Tweet as well. But the fact she got beat 3 times off 80 in handicaps, Tweet for me is by far the most solid of those 98 rivals. Against that, she is improving and only having a 7th start on Friday.
All right. And Dan Dalla, when we were talking about horses, trying to work out where they are in terms of progression or regression, where do you stand with Dan Dalla, considering she won the Albany and the Duchess of Cambridge as a 2-year-old?
Well, it was a funny 2-year-old campaign for a lot of horses last year. Obviously, lockdown meant we started on the 1st of June. You had a very short window to get a run into Royal Ascot and then head there. She was impressive in the Albany. It was hard work in the Duchess of Cambridge. She had a very hard race to beat Fev Rover, the Bradley stablemate in the colours. And then this year, it's just been disappointing. This was a bit of a step back in the right direction. She had a tough draw. She was taking on proper hardened sprinters at Beverley. She's back against fillies and mares over 5 furlongs area. It will be a much weaker race, and that did suggest there's some green shoots.
Was that the most encouraging run?
It was the most encouraging I've seen her for a little while. Obviously, she's not trained on to the extent of what connections we're hoping, but this looks to be a race where, like I say, I think she can get probably more black type on the board, which the Bradley team are always keen on. Against that, Tweet's coming here on the high. She's on a little bit of a downer, really.
If you had to choose one now, what would it be?
Tweet. I think she's actually probably the most confident of the meeting because, like I say, she is the progressive runner in this contest, taking on horses that need to just bounce back.
OK, so Tweet in that listed race, that Scottish Sprint EBF Filly Stakes over 5.5 furlongs for James. So we've discussed the main races at the Ayr Gold Cup Festival, James. If we just try to summarise, though, your advice for people going into looking ahead at these races, in terms of things like ground, draw, pace of races, etc., where do you stand on those things at this stage for punting at Ayr?
For punting, I think pace maps are going to be absolutely vital for your big handicaps. You've got 25 runners. The draw might help you narrow down the field. So you can have a good idea now of what horses you want to keep on side. But if they're drawn away from any pace, if there's no contenders near them, nothing might not drag them into the field. Or if you're going to go with Just Frank, who I quite like, I think that he wants to actually be on his own a little bit and have a bit of space. So pace maps, look at the other handicaps. You're going to get the Bronze Cup. That's going to be a good guide on the Friday just to see where we're at ground-wise. What draw might be favoured, be reinforced again by the Silver Cup, and that will help reinforce your view in the Gold Cup itself. But yeah, I think pace maps are going to be key. It takes a lot of time and hassle to do, but to be a successful punter, I think at Ayr you need to know exactly where everyone is like to be racing and what horses are going to have the perfect scenario.
And all things being equal, just remind people it's Just Frank.
Just Frank,
if he gets in.
If he gets in. If he doesn't get in, it's Comanche Falls. Ratia, I think that's a very well handicapped sprinter for the Julia Camacho team. So wherever Ratia turns up, bronze, silver, you won't get the gold for sure, but I think he's very well handicapped.
James, as always, it's a pleasure to share your company and hear your thoughts. That is it for this week's edition of The Knowledge. We hope that we've pointed you in the right direction ahead of the Ayr Gold Cup Festival. From James, myself, Gordon Brown, Jim Goldie, Graham Anderson, Amy Ryan and the team. Bye-bye.